Alright, Helldivers, the new Servants of Freedom WARBOND is out. We're going to check it out. I'm going to give you my impressions, basically a review of the WARBOND, and I gotta tell you, just right off the bat, this one's pretty good. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is the new LAS 17 double-edged sickle. Obviously, we're going to compare this to our base LAS 16 sickle. And if you look at the stats there, they look pretty similar. The double there has a higher fire limit, but the regular sickle that we've been having since forever has a faster fire rate. Now, something this thing doesn't tell you, which I think is probably important, is the fact that it says it has light armor penetration right there. That's not true. This thing actually does go through medium armor. It gives you that gray indicator, not the shield indicator, but it gives you the white gray indicator that lets you know that you're doing damage to medium targets. Unlike the sickle, which the ammunition will just, or the lasers will just bounce straight off of medium armor. So keep that in mind. Now for the basics of this weapon, when you start firing it, when it gets around 10, maybe 20%, very, very early on, it'll start ticking you with damage, with fire damage. And if you continually fire it, when it gets to its full charge, it'll light you on fire and you'll die. Now you may have picked up on what I was trying to note there. It starts ticking you with fire damage. You pair this with fire resistant armor, and this is an amazing freaking primary weapon. That fire damage, that tick damage is virtually unnoticeable. And with the kill zone armor, everybody should have some sort of fire resistance. The kill zone one does, I think, 50%. And that's okay, you'll see like little ticks of damage, but if you have that 95% damage resistant to fire, you barely notice it at all. So without fire resistant armor, I actually think this primary weapon sucks. But with fire resistant armor, I think this is one of the best primary weapons. And also some other little things to note about this weapon. When you fully charge it, it doesn't then like eject the battery like the regular LAS does. It'll just kind of like catch on fire and again, catch you on fire. But if you leave it, that battery will then cool down and then you can just continually use it. Now you can reload it just like the other LAS sickle, but just know technically you never have to reload this weapon, even when you fully charge it. Other than that, it has the same 3 zoom scopes, and this is just an overall a really strong primary weapon. When I first started using this, I was like, holy shit, this thing sucks. But then when I read the description of the weapon, does more damage when overheated at the cost of slightly burning the user. I thought burning, fire damage, is that the same type of like descriptions and word choice? And it is. Pair this with fire resistant armor and this thing will perform for you. Next, let's talk about the new secondary, the GP31 Ultimatum. This thing is like a handheld 500 kg nuke. 4,500 damage. The only drawback I would really think to this weapon is the fact that the capacity is really low. But if you take a armor set from the Urban Siege WARBOND, that perk that gives you more ammunition, then you'll get 3 shots with this. Let me just tell you, this thing may be my favorite new secondary. I brought it against the bugs, I was one-shotting chargers, I was 1-to-2-shotting impalers, and I was 1-to-2-shotting bile titans. Not to mention the fact that this thing will absolutely obliterate chaff. This gun, this secondary here, is amazing. It's one-handed, so it's very easy to handle as far as if you need to run and shoot a nuke behind you. I'm a big fan of this weapon here. Now I could see some drawbacks to this weapon with that only having 2 shots. So that is true, but this thing kind of works similar to kind of like how the thermite works for loadouts, where if you take the thermite, heavy and massive targets are completely covered, and your primary and your secondary are just free to clear up all the light and like medium chaff. And that's the full kit that takes care of everything. Now we kind of have that similar functionality with a secondary, where this thing will be your heavy and massive destroyer. And in a pinch, yes, obviously nukes chaff. But because of the limited ammo, maybe you want to be a little more, I would say, conservative with that type of use. But also, it's just fun to see a bunch of shit just go boom. Big fan of this secondary. Let's move on to the armor perk. Now, for our armor perk here, the Righteous, we get integrated explosive. So after you die, you'll explode in 1.5 seconds. I'm not a fan of this. I like the aesthetic. So if you're picking this for the aesthetic, I understand. But this explosive here, it's not even enough to kill an overseer. So it's more so just killing light chaff in, a radius around you. Again, not the biggest fan of the armor perk here, but that's okay because the primary weapon and the secondary weapon for this WARBOND is amazing so far. And now let's talk about the new stratagem for the WARBOND, and that is the portable Hell Bomb. Just like it sounds, it's a portable Hellbomb. Similar to the supply backpack, you gotta press, so I play off on controller. So if you press down on the D-pad for your supply backpack, that's how you get the ammunition. Well, for the Hellbomb here, that's how you activate the Hellbomb. So you can activate it and then drop it, and you have plenty of time to get out of the explosion radius. Or you can do the ultimate sacrifice, activate the bomb, run into just a swarm of any type of enemy, Terminids, Bile Titans, whatever, and just watch this thing go boom and sacrifice yourself for democracy. That's the true way to play with the Hellbomb. We all know it. But overall, a very, I would say, niche, funny stratagem. I don't know how often I'm going to pick this if I'm going like sweaty mode, but if I'm having a good time, I'm taking this portable Hellbomb with me. Something you can't do with it that I should probably mention is you can't drop it and then arm it. You have to arm it while you're carrying it. And then last thing on the WARBOND here is the Seeker Grenade. This thing works like little drones. You throw them and then they can fly around you. You can actually throw all your grenades and they will fly and kind of buzz around you like little drones. Very cool, very stylish. And then when they detect an enemy, they will just all go for it. So pretty handy throwable here. I like that it's got a different flavor than all the other grenades, so that's special and that gets some brownie points for me. But that's not all with the update. We also got some Superstore stuff here, and most notably is this combat hatchet. So this combat hatchet is basically like, okay, so if you had the baton and you had the spear, they have a stunning factor to them. You know, they will slow targets or stun them, obviously. The hatchet, on the other hand, it just does more raw damage. So if you thought those two, the stun baton and then the poker, were a little bit light on damage, made it feel like they were like chunking people, get the hatchet. This thing feels a lot better as far as a melee weapon compared to those other two. I like this hatchet a lot more. Obviously, it comes from the Superstore, so how you feel about that is completely up to you. I can see some people not wanting to mess with it because, yeah, Superstore, I think it's like 200 credits. But if you have them laying around and you like that melee style, I think the hatchet is a great pickup. So overall, with this WARBOND, I first came in, I thought it was a little underwhelming. I thought the new sickle, I was like, okay, this thing hurts you, kind of, that could be a little rough. I don't really like that play style, but yeah, once you pair it with fire armor, good to go. The portable Hellbomb, big meme weapon, also big result weapon as well, can get those really epic moments. And then the new grenade launcher, the Nuke the Ultimatum sidearm there, really special as far as just this heavy little 500 kg in your secondary slot. Very handy as well. Big fan of this WARBOND as far as how it mixes up the playstyle of the game. It's really adding in something I would say this game hasn't had yet, so something unique. So if you have the super credits around, I do think this is a pickup. I do think this is enough of a game changer to change up your playstyle and have a lot of fun in Helldivers 2. And really, that's the most important thing about this game is the sandbox and changing it up to basically just continually like have fun, you know, spreading democracy. So that is my review of the WARBOND. Let me know how you guys are finding it. And yeah, I will see you next time. Peace and take care.